Hi, Bruce Wayne, billionaire, bon vivant, gallivanter, playboy, Gotham's most eligible bachelor like 90 years in a row. That's me right there.
I know who you are, Mr. Wayne.
You bet you do. Quick question.
I'm a Batman nerd, I'm a film nerd. I wanted to make this movie a love letter to Batman, to the Gotham City, to the Bat family. To make a movie that maybe, does something that the other Batman movies can't do. That takes Batman. What I pitched to the studios, I pitched that I wanted to make Jerry Maguire as directed by Michael Mann with a lot of jokes in it. And because I think that's the kind of character that Batman is, this very self-involved guy, and where maybe you could do something emotional that you couldn't do in a live-action movie. And I also think, for me, I had the animated series, I had the Adam West stuff, I had Super Friends, I had a lot of ways into Batman, the comic books obviously, I had a lot of ways into Batman when I was a kid. And there's a lot of kids who can't go see Batman versus Superman or can't go see Suicide Squad, and I wanted a movie that maybe introduced kids to Batman, so that they could see their first superhero movie, see it with big action and colorful and fun and kind of care about Batman and the Bat family in a way that I grew to love all of them as I experienced that when I was a kid.
Now, within that spectrum, what's your favorite Batman, or what's your sort of original Batman for you?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I love the Frank Miller stuff. Like, that was that to me was a big eye-opening thing.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I experienced like Super Friends and all that stuff, and that got me hooked. And the comic books, you're talking about Neil Adams, like those were the things that like hooked me when I was a kid. And then Frank Miller came along at just the right time. Yeah, and it was just like, oh, this can be a satire, and this can be very filmic, and it can take place in the future. And it can tell a story that resonates, but also has humor and also has depth, emotional depth, and that sort of thing. It has flashbacks, it's all non-linear and that kind of thing. And it made me think. And I was also starting to really love film and filmmaking at the same time, and exploring alternate, filmmakers. And so it just happened to hit me at the perfect time. And then the Tim Burton stuff came along. And that sort of took the best of both worlds, and I feel like I'm very, very lucky. There's been an iteration of Batman at each stage of my life that sort of took it to the next level, and then the Christopher Nolan stuff came along, and to me that's it's one of the few sort of like almost perfect movie trilogies, because it's just so, the story of Bruce Wayne and Gotham City is so well told. Things that are set up in Batman Begins that are paid off in Dark Knight Rises, and reasonable people can disagree about whether each one of those movies is truly great. But I feel like as a whole, it's one of the few trilogies that actually all of the elements hangs together in a way for me that really works.
And it ends the Batman story, which we are so loath to do.
Yeah.
But we could go deep down this hole for hours. All right, now your animation background, you worked on stuff like Robot Chicken and Moral Oral and all that. So how does that kind of experience inform working on a more mainstream project like this?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can get away with stuff with toys and things like that maybe you can't do in a traditionally animated movie or in live action. And that's some of the stuff that I discovered working on Robot Chicken. It's like, oh, you can actually tell different kinds of, these were sketches on Robot Chicken, but I sort of extrapolate like, oh, we can get away with stuff differently with toys, and being invited to work on the Lego movies. That's how I then got to see, oh yeah, we can turn tone on a dime. It can go from absurd to sincere, super quickly. And actually that's stuff that we did on Moral Oral too, where we would tell these stories that were crazy and then suddenly hit a real emotional truth in there. And those, I get to work with really great creators, Matt and Seth, Dino, Chris and Phil. I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of really smart, really talented, really generous people that have allowed me into their process, and I've gotten to create things I'm really super proud of, and that explore different kinds of storytelling in ways. And I think all of that kind of informed like what I tried to throw into Batman by the premise of suggesting at the beginning of the film that Batman's been around for 78 years in Gotham City, and that all of the Batman stories are on this timeline somehow. that was an ambitious thing you couldn't necessarily do, you know, even though it's silly, but it's something you couldn't do in a live action thing.
Well, it's very Grant Morrison, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, excellent observation. I kept pushing the size of the Batcave bigger and bigger to Grant, my production designer's chagrin. Yeah, I wanted, you know, one of my favorite things when I was a kid, they used to, you know, and they probably still do publish those encyclopedias of like, here's the Encyclopedia of Batman, and you would turn to a page somewhere in the middle, and it would be this cutout of the Batcave and showing all the levels.
Oh, like a cutaway diagram,
Yeah.
like an exploded view.
Exploded view, yeah. And I loved those things, and because you only in the individual panels you only get certain bits and pieces of where this computer is, or where the motorcycles are, or where you assume the Batwing is coming from. And then to see this exploded diagram where all this stuff came from, I wanted that kind of thing in our movies. That's why I wanted it to be big. I wanted to walk you through it where you got to see stuff or imagine where, you know, where things, you know, that there's a moat underneath with the boats, and that there's a hangar above, that, you know, the Batwing comes in, and a rotisserie for the car that shoots, you know, the new cars out. I wanted to, that same feeling I wanted to evoke in the movie.
Fantastic. And finally, it has been announced that you're attached to Nightwing. I just have one simple question. Will it be 70s disco collar Nightwing as debuted in Teen Titans? Because I think that's what the fans deserve.
I definitely think that that's something that the fans deserve. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm a fan, and my intention would be to incorporate. You know, I love Nightwing. It's going to be a way different movie. It's going to be an action-packed movie, but you can bet that there will be nods to all sorts of Nightwings of the past. I download them, you know, like individual ones I want to read.
Yeah.
But I think I've got to do like just the straight up, like the Netflix.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't got everything, but they've got enough there to keep you happy.
Yeah.
Like, they've got all of Tomb of Dracula, which I've never read. You know, the Marv Wolfman stuff.
Of course.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites when that was like Batman, Spider-Man, and Tomb of Dracula, like some of the first comics I ever picked up.
Oh, far out.
For some reason, that was one of the ones. Maybe I bought it in this pack where they
They're just
combined
all in
books.
there, yeah.
But yeah, I love that Tomb of Dracula and stuff. I ended up picking up those collected books.
Yeah, I mean to, but I never quite get around to it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, my list of stuff I need to get is just gigantic.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know, you're just kind of chipping away at it.
Yeah, but that's what they brought in. That's where they introduced Blade.
Yeah.
You know.
At the moment, I'm deep into like 70s era heroes for hire. So Luke Cage and Iron Fist for the new series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun.